final area of functionality that we're going to look at is the Resource Manager feature. So the Resource Manager really allows our customers now to manage capacity planning, what-if modeling scenarios based upon the workload of tasks, requests, and so on and so forth. So across the top of the screen, we have various functions to save resource managers. So as you'll see here, we have an implementation task currently assigned to Jonathan West. We can decide to sort via groups or teams or individuals. So because I have the group by team selected, I can see that both Jonathan resides within the application support team and indeed the desktop support team. We could also apply skill filters. So if, for example, against a person record or a particular CI, you've applied skills or filters to it. If, for example, a task is available across the bottom of the screen, it will actually tell us within that actual area there what the applicable skill should be for that particular task. And very simply, by selecting that skill filter, the system in the Resource Manager will then only showcase the relevant analysts that have that particular skill in order to complete that task. We also have a key matrix. So the Resource Manager will be proactive to suggest to, for example, the resource manager or a project manager who's performing resource allocation, whether tasks are going to be completed within particular periods of time, whether they're going to breach, and so on and so forth. So here at the top, you'll see for a breach overlap, we have the red dots. For missing the required skill, we have this symbol. Whether a task is out of sync, so you may have scenarios whereby certain tasks need to be completed prior to other tasks, so the system will tell you whether you're out of sync. Whether the analyst over allocated, so if, for example, analysts have been overburdened with tasks and they're not going to be able to complete their specific task within the allotted time, the system will dynamically tell you that they're over allocated. And finally, whether a task is going to be completed outside of the appropriate task window. So as we can see with this implementation task, for the latter 3 days of this particular task, this is actually outside of the window, so we're actually going to miss the overlay for this specific implementation task. Very simply, I could then easily drag in another task. So if I start to drag it in to an analyst, the system will again then be proactive and provide warnings so that the analyst, project manager, resource manager who's assigning these tasks would easily be able to see whether there are any warning signs as to breaches or overrunning, over-allocated, etc., etc. So for this task here, the work start date is before the current date. The end date is beyond the OLA breach date. We're attempting to reassign a task to a different team, which will then remove the associated OLA, and the task work start date and or end date are outside of the task window. So again, if these warnings were to appear, you could obviously cancel out of it and manage the applicable task according to the timeframes available. For the purpose of the demo, we're just going to auto-allocate that. So again, it will auto-allocate it to the applicable person. And as you can see now, we have the actual color coding behind it. So straight away, we can see that this is currently going to breach, and it's also occurring outside of the window. It is all drag and drop, very much like the screen designer and the workflow designer. So if I wanted to expand certain tasks, should, for example, they appear outside of different types of rudimentary requests that you can do so. And likewise, you have your task details window here on the right. So again, I can change the date, time periods, and duration of specific tasks, should they be different from the predefined task windows that have been added for changes, requests, releases, and so on and so forth that you may have logged within the system.